Hey everybody, this is Wolfie. Welcome to the Allegheny Trails YouTube channel. Today we're going to discuss about how the Allegheny Trail and FarOut have joined forces and got us on the app and what that means. We've got a couple people from the West Virginia Scenic Trails Association. Uh, First, I want to introduce Justin. Justin, can you introduce yourself, please?
How's it going? I'm Justin Mullins. I'm the president for the West Virginia Scenic Trails Association. I've through hiked the trail a couple times and just do a lot of work on the maintenance side, especially Section 4. But really, it's just wherever the trail needs us to go, depending on what winter storms hit. So just be all over the place.
And everybody can probably remember Nicole here. So.
Hey y'all, good to be with you tonight. Also excited, communications coordinator for the Allegheny Trail, West Virginia Scenic Trail Association, all volunteer nonprofit, and we look at the alignment here with Far Out and how that's not only helped our organization, not only helped our day hikers, through hikers, and section hikers, but really helps with safety for everybody, including those beautiful little pets that you can see Justin has. I'll just throw out there too. Several of us on the board, somebody like Frank, right, we're out using this on other trails as well. So I know it was pretty handy for me over at Grayson Highlands on the AT, and got to see a lot of beautiful trail over there, but also with the lookouts and things like that, destinations to go to. It was a lot of fun engaging with it.
So Justin, let's throw this first question out to you. It's how did the Allegheny Trail get started in Far Out?
Well, it started out with us basically. The board actually sent out a call to organizations for a just a quote on how to do a mapping app. And first out, we had like three different quotes, and one of them was from Far Out. So they came with us with just a deal that worked out good. And plus, they already have a great platform already, so it was a no-brainer just to go with them and work on that. But once we got the agreement set up to start Far Out, it was really the association's responsibility to get the trail jet mapped on GPS, all waypoints and all that stuff on there. So we had volunteer Kevin Rydell volunteer to through hike the trail and GPS it, and also add all the waypoints and such on the trail. So that took him, I think, about almost 4 weeks to hike the trail. At that time, he'd already through hiked it before in the past, but this time it's a lot. It takes a lot more time having to stop and add waypoints and all that stuff. So he initially got everything online. He did all the work with Far Out to get this on, and he was going to be the actual person to upkeep with Far Out and everything that we got online. So he was going to be our contact with Far Out and the Trail Association. But I think it was October of 23 when the Far Out app went live, and it was only a few months after that that we got word from his parents that he passed away. So it was just one. It was one of the last things he got with the trail involved with us before he passed away. So Far Out was really a big help, and he was a really big part in getting that involved.
You know what year he did his hike in? Was it 2023 or was it shortly before that?
He did a hike before that. I think it was maybe 2020. He did his through. Well, no, it might have been 2019 when he did his first through hike.
And then
But
he went back in
he,
2023 to do the mapping.
mm, yeah, he did
So
it a
we
second
we
time.
really haven't been on Far Out that long, right?
No, it's only been for a little over 2 years now.
Yeah, and then
October.
and then in 2020, was it 2024 or 20, was it this past year you hiked it in the winter and did updates?
January of 2024, so last year early. Yeah, I did a lot of updates when I through hiked it in January. So any waypoints you see now with the winter look to them, that would have been my updates So anything like that, I helped put on a bunch of new waypoints and updated a lot of existing waypoints to add more detail and that kind of thing.
So, I guess one of the things to add to it, right? We're changing the way we do updates too, right? Is you're spreading the responsibility around. So updates should be coming quicker to our our trail updates should be coming quicker to the app now, right? At
Yeah,
least that's
right
the hope.
now we have a committee. I think there's about 8 or 9 people on it right now. That it's going to make dividing the jobs up much more easier. So I'm hoping to have a slew of updates ready for the spring hikers. Right now, we're working on getting a lot more town amenities on their waypoints. Working on just verifying all the waypoints that we have right now that are existing for any errors or anything like that. We're reviewing all the far out comments that all the users have left. So I've got a really good crew on that that's helping it because really one person is just it's really just too much to take for one person to take on.
Yeah, for 311 miles, and I guarantee you, some of those other trails out there have probably 100 plus people updating far out for them. So,
And
so
let's just say this too, Frank. Not only did Justin was the administrator and liaison to Far Out, but he would take weeks. Weeks. How many weeks, Justin, did you take off of your job and go hike in negative-degree weather, short days? I mean, I know you stayed with us and we shuttled you. There was probably 8, 9, 10 inches coming down. He's like, "Yeah, I got to be there at 5:30." I'm like, "Okay, here we go." I mean, the dedication, right? But that's what it took for our organization starting out and cranking it out. But Justin, how many weeks did you take off to map that last year?
I took 2 months off, and I think it was 46 on trail days to
Think
map
about
all
that.
that because we had some really harsh winters, and that really slowed me down, and had to skip a couple segments and stuff like that. And yeah, it was really a rough time to be updating the far out with the winter weather.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
so
dedication from a volunteer. I mean, think about it.
yeah, and I used his updates when I did my hike last year, and it was helpful. It beats using a paper map to no end. And with that being said, let's go back and discuss this. I mean, we saw a huge impact of users on the trail just because of far out, and especially this year. How many people did we have on trail at one time this year? And primarily because of far out. Because I know we had two people from Florida, one from Rhode Island, people from Pennsylvania, Virginia. We had
Ohio, New
Ohio,
York,
yeah,
yep,
more than
Maine,
just locals, yeah,
yep,
and it had a huge impact. I think we were up in what at one time almost 20 people on trail at one time, which is unheard
yeah.
of for our trail.
Yeah, and those are strictly through hikers too, just cranking through and connecting in and checking
Yeah,
in. Those are also people, for the listeners out there, we know that because we have a hiker registration form when you come to the trail and you're going to hike through. We talk safety, we talk resupply, give you a 30-minute free opportunity to ask questions, things like that. So those are the people that we knew of, Frank. Not, I mean,
mhm,
because they did fill out the hiker registration form and kind of checked in when they got in different towns. Because again, this trail you don't always have cell service, right? Um, and so we go through the quiet zone, but also very remote. So another aspect of our trail, the Allegheny, that's a little bit more, I don't want to say imperative, but highly useful to have an app like this in play as you're hiking.
so well, let's talk about users. What kind of feedback have we gotten from the user base that's using far out right now? I know that I've talked to people that has found it useful, and they talked about it needing updates now. Um, but what kind of hurt have you guys heard, Justin? What have you heard from a president's point of view about far out and its impact on the hiker community and their
I think
feedback back to us?
yeah, it's been really great feedback. I mean, people really rely on that because we every fall for the last 2 3 years we've been in a drought situation. So having people rely on these comments that other hikers leave at these water sources to see if they're dry or flowing really matters, and the association can also target areas that are troublesome. We can start leaving water caches. We had a volunteer leave water caches near the Bear Branch area. We have the Grand Shelter water cache. But this year, especially, we've located other areas where during drought times we have volunteers that can leave water caches. So that's really a great thing. It's great for the trail, and it's great for the users to help us learn those areas. And we've also, it helps with maintenance. We can have comments that say tree down at such and such mile point. It can help us target those areas. So there's really a lot of useful metrics that we can get from that.
Yeah. Well, so speaking of metrics, without FarOut, I wouldn't have known that when you hike our trail, you're climbing a total of 450,000 feet of incline.
Yeah.
You know, so that's 311 miles, and it, you know, that's quite a bit of change. You're really pumping up the mountains.
Sure. I'll just chime in too because I see the hiker forums and absolutely on point, Justin, everything you said there. But majority, so we have a question in that forum. It's like, what is your choice, right? What are you using to navigate? Is it a guidebook? Is it FarOut? Anything, right? It's kind of open ended. And so the majority of users, are using the FarOut. But to speak to his point also about the water, like up in Pocahontas County, we had the very dry, unusual dry drought actually. But the day it rained, I was able to go on and update people. Hey, just rained 2 inches. You know what I mean? So it was before it was, hey, I hope there's a water cache. I hope there's still something there for me. It turned into, okay, and I put on there like this X amount of stretch right here, which is super remote, single track, really beautiful. You got water again. So it's not exactly immediate, right? But in some instances, it can be very helpful.
So let's go on as an organization. How are we using FarOut as an organization to make the trail better?
Yeah, well, first off, we have a new system in place that FarOut works. Started using AI to flag comments and send them to us. So if someone were to say that there was a tree down at such and such mile point, it would be flagged as a trail hazard and sent to us. But also any information like, say there's some dangerous situation on trail where it's a washout or something like that, or besides just tree down, any information will get flagged to us, but it'll get categorized by the type of comment that you put. So if it's something related to towns, people, or anything with water, drought areas, or anything like that. So those comments are kind of categorized and sent to us to check so we can get better eyes on what people say along the trail. But yeah, with FarOut, we're using it to kind of, in the future, we're looking at making a 5th edition guidebook. Hopefully by 27 spring release, I hope we can have something out. But we're using FarOut to really compile all of our waypoints and everything to pull from to work on a new guidebook, and using the FarOut waypoints and mileages as the basis point for this.
Yeah, our current guidebook's close, but it's not dead on with what FarOut has to say, right?
Yeah, it's still,
and our goal is to make a match.
Yeah, it's definitely still usable to navigate, but there's a lot of missing shelters on there, stuff like that. There's some town amenities on the webpage. It's we're working on updating that, but for people who prefer guidebooks, it's still usable. We only have about 3 left in the store to be sold before we sell out of them for the 4th edition. But we do have a PDF version, so people can download that, and if they need to, they can print off a copy. So we want to leave that option open for the people who do prefer paper guidebooks as well.
And just to be clear, if somebody goes out and goes on FarOut and buys the Allegheny Trail, right? Money comes back to the Allegheny Trail, and then that money then goes into maintaining the trail, right? Nobody else gets that money, but we get a little piece of it to help maintain the trail and keep updates coming.
Yeah, anybody does that, we get a percentage of the sale sent back to us every quarter.
Yep. And also, Frank, one of the big things with the far how we use it on the back end is to help us plan our work days or plan special access. If something like this fall, we had a new kiosk go up by a scout, and different land managers have different requirements. But this is one of the things too is helping other projects be a little bit more efficient. Number one, in finding out what that is, because this was a new person that had come to the trail, wasn't a through hiker, wasn't a section hiker. Sure, she did her research, but at the same time, the people that she was bringing, right? This was a way for her when you set waypoints and do a track for yourself. This is really spot on for the people that maybe she was already in the field with her crew working that could come join and help. So there's also a myriad of ways behind the scenes we can use that in addition to our own maintenance as we're, are we walking through? Are we doing in and outs? Or what is the task at hand that day? So from a maintenance standpoint, definitely helpful, but also when you're out there just enjoying or taking a recon and you have your dogs, where's the next closest water? Not just for yourself, right? But that type of stuff's really important as we're out there. The summer, man, we're out there sometimes 10, 11 hours, not by choice, but it just works out like that, right?
And so one of the things we've touched on it that we read the comments. We have and since we're a smaller organization and a smaller trail, every comment we see, right? And where if it was like a big, let's compare us to the Appalachian Trail, right? There's millions of people hiking that trail every year, and I've looked at those far out comments, and some of them, you go to a waypoint and there'll be 300 comments. I guarantee, those will be almost impossible for an organization to read and to make use of. For us, that's not the case. We're still kind of small, so those comments become important to us from a trail management representation, I guess. But so, how can the people that are using the app really help us too, right? And help themselves, I guess.
Yeah. Well, for FarOut, the most important thing they can use is to use the comment system. Let people know the water sources, blowdowns at a certain mile marker, and especially say a restaurant's closed or a new one's opened up. Leave a comment somewhere on there on the waypoint or vicinity. Let us know what's going on. So if something's closed, the hikers are probably the first one to encounter it. So it's good for the future hikers, and it's also something we can find out quicker to resolve and update the waypoint information.
And just to be clear, we can't see their custom waypoints because that's saved locally only on their device, right? Mm-hmm. We will want them to go to the closest waypoint, leave a comment, and maybe specify a mile marker, right?
Yeah. If it's something that's new, then just delete it on the closest waypoint possible would be. But what really helps us besides the little comments is if they were like there was a large blowdown or something, just for us to have reference of the size, what we need to bring out equipment-wise. If they were to email info@wvscenictrails.org a picture of the blowdown and mile point, that would be bigger help. But just letting us know where we can target our volunteer efforts for these blowdowns and stuff would really be big help.
And if you somewhere in FarOut, it's buried in the trail information of how to contact us. I've seen it, but I couldn't tell you how to get back to it, to be honest with you.
And that's in the hiker forum too, though. So we do, like, for those that do choose to register with us, there is that information as well in there before they even head out. And so one other thing too, in communications, like starting out with FarOut, if you're new, right, watch a tutorial on it, because oftentimes, Justin, we've been out there and have a couple new new volunteers that want to come out. It's great. We were talking about FarOut, maybe give them an explanation before we all head out in our teams, and it's like they don't have the right map, or they don't have the right, it's not all legit. So I would encourage people to get that, try a trail near you, get comfortable with it. But even when you come out here, there's a lot of different ways you can use FarOut. And there is the social aspect. Personally, I haven't had a chance to dive into that element. I'm just kind of like waypoint queen. But the way I would also encourage people is to make sure they check, leave public comment, right? Don't just make a waypoint for yourself, but when you go on there, you can leave those public comments, and that's really huge. Like Justin said at the closest. And if you have a chance, again, it's info at WVScenicTrails, plural, .org. And that's like why that's really important is if we're going to go out there and we need a 20-inch bar with a chainsaw, that's a whole different ballgame of hiking 3 miles in with that sucker, with the bar oil, with the gas, versus just a little, I don't know, 10-inch right type tree that's down. Um, that adds a lot of extra work. So if we can determine what is the tree, is it a whole nest of trees? I mean, last year some of the hikers may or may not know, but we cleaned up 34 miles of an ice storm. That was a lot of work. But our goal again is to get out there, target things a little bit earlier, but throughout the season with those windstorms, with maybe saturated rains that hopefully we'll get this year, not just dry up in the summer is what I'm saying there. But that really helps us determine what type of tread work tools if we have to bring, in addition to just sawing, right?
So, now that we've covered about how they can help us, what's coming down the pike as far as far out goes and our updates on the Allegheny Trail. What are we working on as an organization that might get somebody excited about coming back out to hike the Allegheny Trail or even to rehike it, right? So I've heard rumors, so let's fess up and kind of give them a sneak peek a little bit of what we're working on and what they'll see.
Well, the first thing I've got the far out committee that we're working on is this. We're verifying making sure all the waypoints are up to date, like the existing waypoints, checking for errors, that kind of thing. But we're really focusing on involving our trail towns, getting all the amenities, hotels, restaurants, anything a hiker would find useful. So that's one of the things that we're lacking right now is we have all these trail towns nearby, but we need to get those amenities on board so people can use those to help plan their hike. It'll be that much easier for people to plan one spot to the next, so they'll have up-to-date information of where they can go, where they can stay, good places to see, all that great information. So that's one thing we're really looking forward to. We've got a couple reroutes that we had, like in Durban, and working on North 33. We're getting those on. They'll be ready to go this spring. So just really a big update with a lot more amenities to help people plan their upcoming hikes.
Yeah, I know Durban's seen a lot of increased traffic and business, right? Just because of far out and people hiking the trail, and a number of people out towners staying there, and they know the value of far out, so they're excited about getting those updates in. I think a few of the other towns are too, about getting their
Absolutely.
updates.
And I think Justin too, a lot of this year and maybe the end of last year, we were able to attack a few of the scenic overlooks where on the icon on far out it's the purple camera. So definitely stop at those places, get some pictures. We've got some different informational like kiosks set up too that are going to be coming on board rapidly with new kiosk panels. Different things we're tying in with other, like he's saying, other amenities close by, but also maybe some really cool trails really close to us, whereas previously they didn't have that option. So, for example, those that are gonna maybe take a minute and see what we would call West Virginia's Niagara Falls. It's called the High Falls of Cheat. We share 2 miles of that trail, going one way in one direction. It's a deviation off our trail. It's something to consider and think about. But there's a brand new. You'll have the energy. You'll have the time to make that decision if you have the energy. But there's a whole new kiosk going up right in front of that. And one of the kiosks, and one of the new standards on that is to give you QR codes, give you some safety information in the event there was an accident, and that's something we're partnering with the Forest Service on as well to meet their standard of protocol. And so, one of the other big things I think we know we're we're as a society, right? We love our communication, so we're finding some different self-service areas that weren't even there this past spring. So throwing that type of communication out and putting it in along the trail, I think we've got maybe 3 or 4 of those to add to things too. So, and the other part of it is seasonality. When the leaves are on, sure, some of the communication changes, but what we're finding in the fall too is just to throw that information out. Hey, if you stand here and look south, you may have service depending on your carrier. At least six months out of the year, you know what I mean? But also for just those day hikers that want to come out, those section hikers that are looking for the resupplies, we're anchoring in, we're finding those people that are new businesses that are opening in some of these small rural towns, right? This is the heartbeat of America. A lot of these towns have been left behind: coal, timber, railroad, some industries left. And so, if there's a way we can help boost or amplify their economies, even if it's just for 5 6 months of the tourist summer season or something, we're looking to partner and do that. And so bringing in those additional components, we know, right? We know we've been missing, but again, with so many more volunteers involved and having the opportunity to communicate and build out over the 311 miles, it's been a big deal. We have people now that can help people get set up as they drop them off at the northern terminus, the southern terminus, and like Durban's the middle of the trail. So check in there, and other people are constantly, I think, reporting to us on the hiker forum, like, hey, this is where I resupply. These were the amazing. We don't necessarily have hostels along the trail, but Airbnbs and the traditional bed and breakfast, commenting on those places, also being open to taking resupplies. So that's another elevated element. Whereas before it may have just been like track focused, we're kind of steering off, like Justin said, to adding several different new amenities.
Yeah, so one of the things I find helpful is, and I just recently saw it, is that FarOut has updated the web app also. So you can now go into the web app. You can now plan your routes on a bigger screen, and when you save them, they'll show up on your device. So and definitely make use of that. And I know one of the things I find interesting is, you know, I hike the AT also, but when you put up the Allegheny Trail against the AT, you can actually see how much our trail parallels the AT, right? Through the same mountain range. So
Yeah.
it's definite. But so there's big changes coming up as far as far out goes, and we want people to go out there and use that app as much as possible and give us as much information and feedback as possible. So any other comments before we close out and leave?
You got something, Nicole?
Well, I did. I was just going to say, in the Allegheny Trail podcast, Alice Bodnar was, I believe, our first guest, and so that's one of the owners of FarOut, and I know they've made some huge changes, so I just want to acknowledge that. You guys can go back and check that out. Go check out their website. There's a subscription option if you don't want to. If you're out there hiking and you don't want to buy just one trail, you do have the subscription option. But also, in closing, Justin, let's take a minute and talk about when you were an ambassador. So just real quick, I'll segue back after that. But tell them what a FarOut ambassador is. And look, anybody who's a FarOut ambassador out there, come hike our trail. We'd love to have our ambassadors on our trail.
Yeah, it's just a little program that FarOut has. They usually have about 20 or so people a year. They choose out to be ambassadors. They'll send them like shirts, stickers, that kind of thing. But they'll highlight what your hiking is throughout the year. They'll share a lot of posts, and really just give everybody a little description of what you've been doing when somebody's going to hike. So that was just a good way to get more word out for the Allegheny Trail as I was hiking in winter time. I think I was probably one of the first hikers out there in January when they did the FarOut Ambassador program. So that was pretty cool being partnered with them. I saw a lot of posts shared on my hike. They kind of cross-shared their other platforms and such. So it drew a lot more into people to our trail as well. But one of the Far Out ambassadors I did end up meeting, Josh Sheets. He was planning to actually through hike the Allegheny Trail that fall, and we ended up meeting up on the trail, hanging out a little bit, doing a photo shoot together. And now he's on one of our board positions as an at-large member. So it's a little cool how that worked out with just connecting with different people from the Far Out Ambassador Program.
Yeah, it was great. It was great to be a part of all that with Josh and what he brings as a golly, I don't even know how many thousands of miles he's got in, but again, somebody who's so well versed in the hiking world, what they're willing to give back, right? It's all about that invitation, and just as a very small nonprofit as we are, an all volunteer nonprofit, those are nuggets. Those are just beautiful relationships that you can see the not just like good in people, but the great in people. Where he's been all around showcasing what he does, and then he's like, "Hey man, that trail is really cool. Yeah, is there a way to get back? I'm in." So it's been great having him on our at-large board, and what he shares in terms of knowledge and experience is just it's awesome. So shout out to Soul Slosher there for sure, and Frank, I know you use it a lot too, and have ideas and feedback, and so we're appreciative, very very appreciative of your involvement and your time to put something like this out there to help us grow.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. And thank you for joining me tonight. And so I'd like to thank Justin and Nicole for being out here. Like they really had a choice. But with that said, definitely go out and check out our website, hikethealleghenytrail.org, West Virginia's longest trail, currently 311 miles, though that may change. So with that being said, this is Wolfie, DTFN, ta-ta for now.